Welcome to Master the Power of Silence, a life-changing audiobook from Liberty Audiobook. What if I told you that the most magnetically attractive people you know never try to be attractive? They do not chase attention, they do not perform for others, and they certainly do not follow the generic advice that floods social media about being more charismatic. Instead, they possess something far more powerful: silent attraction. What if I told you that true influence has never needed volume? It needs clarity, it needs restraint, and it needs a mind that knows when to speak and when to hold back. In a world drowning in noise, the person who can remain quiet without folding, without shrinking, without rushing to defend themselves, commands a different kind of respect. They influence without announcing, they build without broadcasting, they win without arguing for their importance. And what if I told you that silence is not empty? Silence is pressure. Silence is the space where weak people expose themselves and strong people take control. Every word you speak too early gives away leverage. Every reaction you rush into hands power to someone else. This is not about being quiet. This is about strategic silence. And once you master it, you will never be controlled again. In this comprehensive guide, you are going to discover the scientifically backed habits, the timeless wisdom, and the philosophical insights that create silent magnetism, undeniable influence, and unshakable power. You will learn why trying hard to be attractive actually repels people, why constantly talking dilutes your message, and how developing the right internal systems creates an irresistible external presence. By the time you finish this audiobook, you will understand exactly how to become the person others are naturally drawn to, the leader others willingly follow, and the force others respect, without ever having to chase, perform, or compromise your authenticity. This is not about becoming someone you are not. It is about becoming the best version of who you already are, and doing it so naturally that attraction, influence, and power become inevitable. Let us begin this journey to mastering the power of silence. Chapter 1. The Hidden Language of Silence. Unveiling its true power. Silence has always been misunderstood. Most people equate influence with loudness, visibility, and constant expression. They believe that to be heard, you must speak. To be seen, you must perform. To be powerful, you must assert yourself through constant verbal output. But this conventional wisdom, while seemingly logical, is profoundly mistaken. In truth, silence is not an absence. It is a profound presence. It is not weakness. It is a formidable strength. It is not empty. It is a canvas upon which true power, attraction, and influence are silently painted. Let us start with a foundational understanding. Silence is pressure. Human beings crave certainty, feedback, reassurance, and reactions. When you deny them that clarity, pressure builds. Their minds start working against them. They replay conversations, second-guess their words, and wonder what you are thinking. This discomfort is leverage. As we will explore, the one who needs clarity first is often the one with less power. Power does not rush to explain itself. Power does not rush to respond. Power does not rush to soothe other people's anxiety. Weakness does. Consider the historical and philosophical perspective. Throughout history, the most impactful figures, from mythical philosophers to masterful military strategists, understood the profound weight of deliberate stillness. Think of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, which emphasizes knowing when not to fight, when to retreat, and when to remain still, allowing the opponent to exhaust themselves. This is not about passivity. It is about strategic restraint, a chosen inaction far more potent than any aggressive movement. Similarly, ancient Eastern philosophies emphasized the power of emptiness, of space, in creating meaning and impact. A cup is useful because of its empty space. A song is powerful because of its pauses. Silence, in this sense, is the fertile ground from which all meaningful action and communication spring. The science behind this is equally compelling. Our brains are constantly scanning for social signals, while words contribute only a small percentage to overall communication impact. Nonverbal cues, body language, vocal qualities, and presence count for the vast majority. This means that 93% of your attractiveness and influence has nothing to do with what you say, and everything to do with how you carry yourself and the energy you project. Silent attraction works because it taps into the oldest, most primitive parts of the human brain. When we encounter someone who possesses genuine confidence, emotional stability, and social intelligence, our subconscious mind recognizes these as markers of genetic fitness, social status, and potential partnership value. This recognition happens in milliseconds, long before any words are exchanged. The biggest mistake most people make when trying to become more attractive or influential is focusing on the wrong things entirely. They obsess over what to say, how to act, or what techniques to use, completely missing the fundamental truth that attraction and influence operate on a much deeper level than conscious behavior. They try to fake these signals through surface-level changes, forcing better posture, practicing scripted conversations, or adopting behaviors that do not match their internal state. This creates incongruence, and humans are exceptionally good at detecting incongruence. When your external does not match your internal reality, people sense something is off, even if they cannot articulate why. True attraction, influence, and power emerge from genuine self-development. Real confidence and actual competence. You cannot fake the calm presence of someone who has learned to regulate their emotions. You cannot mimic the natural confidence of someone who has built real skills and overcome genuine challenges. You cannot replicate the social ease of someone who genuinely cares about others and has developed emotional intelligence. These qualities are not tricks or techniques you turn on and off. They are integrated parts of who you are. This audiobook is your guide to understanding and cultivating this profound power. It is about learning to wield silence not as an absence, but as a force. It is about using restraint not as a limitation, but as a leverage. It is about embracing stillness, not as passivity, but as strategic control. From this moment forward, begin to see silence, not as an enemy to be avoided, but as an ally to be mastered. It is the base layer of authority, the soil from which confidence grows. Master this, and people start adjusting to you. Ignore this, and you will keep giving power away without realizing it. You learn how to withhold, wait, and watch until others reveal their intentions, their insecurity, and their mistakes. You do not win by talking more. You win by speaking last. Let us embark on this transformative journey to master the hidden language of silence. Chapter 2. The Psychology of a Silent Magnetism. Why we are drawn to stillness. The allure of silent magnetism is not a modern phenomenon. It is deeply embedded in our evolutionary psychology. From ancient tribal leaders to revered spiritual figures, the individuals who commanded the most profound respect were often those who possessed a certain quiet authority, a gravitas that transcended mere words. This magnetic quality, this silent attraction, worse because it taps into the oldest, most primitive parts of the human brain. Consider the concept of genetic fitness in an evolutionary context. When our ancestors encountered someone who exuded confidence, emotional stability, and social intelligence without needing to boast or perform, their subconscious minds recognized these as markers of high value. Such individuals will be reliable partners, effective leaders, and trustworthy allies. This recognition happens in milliseconds, long before any words are exchanged. It is an instinctive assessment that bypasses the rational mind, creating an immediate, often unconscious, draw. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. Research from prestigious institutions, such as Harvard's Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience Lab, highlights how our brains are constantly scanning for social signals that indicate someone's value. Mirror neurons, specialized brain cells, unconsciously mimic and evaluate the emotional states and behavioral patterns of others. When you encounter someone with silent magnetism, your brain picks up on hundreds of microsignals. Their posture communicates confidence without arrogance. Their breathing patterns suggest emotional regulation. Their eye contact demonstrates presence and attention. Their movement patterns indicate physical awareness and control. None of these require them to say a single word, yet they create an immediate impression of attractiveness and competence. This is why the most charismatic leaders, successful entrepreneurs, and naturally attractive people often seem effortless in their appeal. They are not performing attraction, they are embodying it. Their habits, mindset, and internal state create an external presence that others find magnetic. Dr. Albert Mehrabian's Menai research, often cited in communication studies, revealed that only 7% of communication impact comes from words. A remarkable 38% comes from vocal qualities, and a staggering 55% from body language or presence. This means that 93% of your attractiveness and influence has nothing to do with what you say, and everything to do with how you carry yourself and the energy you project. But here is where most people get it wrong. They try to fake these signals through surface-level changes. They force better posture, practice scripted conversations, or adopt behaviors that do not match their internal state. This creates incongruence. Imagine someone trying to look confident while their internal monologue is riddled with self-doubt and anxiety. Their forced smile, slightly rigid posture, or overly enthusiastic gestures will feel off to others. Humans are exceptionally good at detecting this misalignment. When your external does not match your internal reality, People sense something is amiss, even if they cannot articulate why. This incongruence repels rather than attracts. Silent attraction, by contrast, is authentic. It emerges from genuine self-development, real confidence, and actual competence. You cannot fake the calm presence of someone who has learned to regulate their emotions. You cannot mimic the natural confidence of someone who has built real skills and overcome genuine challenges. You cannot replicate the social ease of someone who genuinely cares about others and has developed emotional intelligence. These are deeply ingrained qualities, not superficial behaviors. The habits we are going to explore throughout this audiobook are not just behaviors to adopt, they are transformative practices that change who you are at a fundamental level. When you develop these habits consistently, they rewire your nervous system, reshape your identity, and transform your presence in ways that create genuine magnetism. The people who possess silent attraction have typically spent years, often unconsciously, developing habits that signal high value to others. They have learned to be comfortable with themselves, to regulate their emotions under pressure, to show genuine interest in others, and to move through the world with purpose and presence. Crucially, these are not personality traits they were born with. They are skills they develop through consistent practice. Understanding this distinction is vital because it means silent attraction is learnable. You do not need to be naturally extroverted, exceptionally good-looking, or blessed with inherent charisma. You need to develop the internal qualities that create external magnetism. You need to build the habits that signal confidence, competence, and emotional maturity to everyone you encounter. The transformation happens from the inside out. As you develop these habits, they become part of your identity. You stop thinking about being attractive and start simply being attractive. You stop performing for others and start operating from a place of genuine confidence and self-assurance. This internal shift creates an external presence that others find irresistibly magnetic. Chapter 3. The Foundation of Presence and Energy. Mastering Your Inner World. Before we dive into specific attractive habits, we must lay the groundwork, the invisible force that determines whether people are drawn to you or unconsciously avoid you, regardless of what you say or do. Surf. This foundation is your presence and your ability to manage your internal energy. Presence is not about being the loudest person in the room or demanding attention. True presence is about being fully engaged with the current moment and the people in it. It is about having such complete awareness and control over your internal state that others can feel your groundedness and stability. The neuroscience of presence reveals why this quality is so magnetically attractive. When you are truly present, your nervous system is regulated, your breathing is deep and controlled, and your body language naturally opens up. This creates what researchers call psychological safety for others. People unconsciously relax around those who are genuinely present because they sense no threat, no agenda, and no emotional instability. Most people exist in a state of partial presence. They are physically in one place while mentally somewhere else, thinking about what happened earlier, worrying about what might happen later, or planning what they will say next in a conversation. This scattered attention creates an energy that others find draining rather than attractive. Developing true presence starts with learning to manage your internal energy. Your energy is the sum total of your thoughts, emotions, physical state, and attention. When these elements are aligned and controlled, you project an energy that others find compelling. When they are scattered or conflicted, you project an energy that repels others, even if you are saying all the right things. The first component of energy management is emotional regulation. Attractive and influential people have learned to maintain emotional equilibrium, regardless of external circumstances. They do not get triggered by minor inconveniences, do not react emotionally to criticism, and do not allow other people's moods to dictate their own emotional state. This emotional stability is incredibly attractive because it signals psychological maturity and reliability. When others know that you will not become reactive, defensive, or emotionally volatile, they feel safe to be authentic around you. They can express themselves without walking on eggshells, knowing that you will respond from a place of emotional intelligence rather than knee-jerk reaction. Developing emotional regulation requires understanding the physiology of emotions. Emotions are not just mental experiences. They are full-body phenomena that affect your breathing, posture, facial expressions, and vocal tonality. Learning to recognize the early physical signs of emotional activation allows you to intervene before your emotions take control of your behavior. The practice of conscious breathing is fundamental to emotional regulation. When you breathe deeply and slowly, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes calm and clear thinking. When you breathe shallowly or rapidly, you activate your sympathetic nervous system, which creates stress and reactive behavior. Influential people have often unconsciously developed breathing patterns that keep them in a state of calm alertness. They breathe from their diaphragm rather than their chest. They maintain a slow and steady rhythm, and they use their breath to reset their emotional state when needed. This creates a physical foundation for emotional stability that others can sense even from across a room. The second component of energy management is attention control. Where you place your attention determines the quality of your presence and the impact you have on others. When your attention is scattered across multiple concerns, your presence becomes diluted and unfocused. When your attention is completely engaged with the person or situation in front of you, your presence becomes magnetic. Developing attention control requires training yourself to be single-pointed in your focus. This means when you are in a conversation, you are 100% present with that conversation. You are not thinking about your phone, planning your next activity, or judging what the other person is saying. You are fully engaged with understanding, connecting, and responding authentically. This level of attention is rare in our distracted world, which makes it incredibly powerful when someone encounters it. People are so accustomed to partial attention that when they experience someone's complete presence, it feels almost intoxicating. They leave the interaction feeling heard, valued, and energized. The third component of energy management is physical awareness. Your body is constantly communicating information about your internal state, and others are unconsciously reading these signals. When your body is tense, contracted, or fidgety, it communicates anxiety and insecurity. When your body is relaxed, open, and grounded, it communicates confidence and ease. Developing physical awareness means learning to consciously relax unnecessary tension while maintaining alertness and engagement. It means becoming aware of your posture, your facial expressions, and your movement patterns. It means understanding how your physical state affects your mental and emotional state, and vice versa. Many people carry chronic tension in their shoulders, jaw, or stomach without realizing it. This tension not only affects how they feel internally, but also creates an energy that others find uncomfortable. Learning to consciously release this tension while maintaining good posture and alert engagement creates a physical presence that others find appealing and calming. The integration of emotional regulation, attention control, and physical awareness creates what we might call grounded presence. This is the quality that makes someone's energy feel solid, stable, and attractive. It is not about being perfect or never experiencing difficult emotions. It is about having the skills to navigate your internal world in a way that allows you to show up authentically and powerfully in your external world. When you develop grounded presence, several things happen automatically. Your voice becomes more resonant and calm. Your eye contact becomes more steady and genuine. Your movement becomes more fluid and purposeful. Your listening becomes more attentive and empathetic. These changes happen naturally, as expressions of your improved internal state, not as behaviors you are trying to perform. This is the foundation upon which all other attractive and influential habits are built. Without grounded presence, even the most sophisticated social skills can feel manipulative or inauthentic. With grounded presence, even simple interactions become opportunities for genuine connection and mutual attraction. Chapter 4. Strategic Silence, the Art of Speaking Last to Win. In a world where everyone is competing to be heard, the person who has mastered strategic silence and deep listening stands out like a beacon. This is not about being quiet or passive. It is about understanding that silence and listening are active, powerful tools that create profound attraction, influence, and control. This is the art of speaking last to win. The psychology behind strategic silence is rooted in several key principles. First, silence creates space for others to reveal themselves. When you are comfortable with pauses and quiet moments, you give people permission to think, process, and share more deeply than they would in rapid-fire conversation. This creates intimacy and connection that most people rarely experience. Second, silence demonstrates confidence and self-control. People who feel the need to fill every moment with words are often operating from anxiety or insecurity. They are afraid that silence means they are boring, that they are not contributing enough, or that others will judge them negatively. Someone who is comfortable with silence projects the confidence that they do not need to prove themselves through constant verbal performance. Third, strategic silence makes your words more impactful when you do speak. If you are always talking, your words lose their weight and significance. If you speak thoughtfully and only when you have something valuable to contribute, people listen more intently and value your input more highly. Scarcity increases value. This applies to words too. Let us understand why. Whoever talks first loses. Human beings crave certainty. They want feedback. They want reassurance. They want reactions. They want to know if they are approved, accepted, or rejected. When you deny them that clarity, pressure builds. The one who needs clarity first is the one with less power. Power does not rush to explain itself. Power does not rush to respond. Power does not rush to soothe other people's anxiety. Weakness does. You have a choice. You can speak to relieve their discomfort, or you can stay silent and increase your leverage. Most people talk because silence makes them uncomfortable. They speak to fill the gap. They speak to be liked. They speak to be understood. They speak to prove they matter. That is not confidence. That is nervous energy leaking out of the mouth. This is not about being rude or cold. It is about discipline and control. Silence is control. When you speak too quickly, you give information away. When you explain too much, you give your position away. When you react immediately, you give emotional access away. And access is power. Every unnecessary word hands leverage to the other person. Every rushed response tells them you care more than they do. Every explanation says, I need you to understand me. You do not need their permission. You do not need their validation. You do not need their approval. Strong people let silence do the heavy lifting. Look at any serious negotiator. When the offer is placed on the table, they do not rush to respond. They do not argue. They do not justify. They pause. And that pause feels like pressure. The other side starts talking. They add incentives. They soften terms. They explain themselves. Why? Because whoever talks first loses. This is a rule you must tattoo into your thinking. Whoever talks first loses. Silence forces the other person to reveal their position, to expose their urgency, to show their insecurity. Refrassen firms, repassen from the bussum firms, repodlabus prime firms, or pass brown bus prime firms. Avoid forces truth. Most people think silence is empty. It is not. Silence is a vacuum, and human beings cannot stand a vacuum. They rush to fill it. They talk. They explain. They confess. When you stay silent, the other person's mind starts racing. They assume the silence means judgment, disagreement, disappointment, or dominance. They do not know which. So they start talking to relieve the pressure, and in that talking, they reveal everything. The void forces truth. This is why interrogators, negotiators, and effective leaders all leverage silence. They ask a direct question, then go quiet. No saving, no prompting, no help. And watch what happens. The room starts shifting. People speak out of turn. They over-explain. They expose competence or lack of it. Silence separates strength from performance. Remember, every time you rush to fill silence, you give up information. Every time you stay quiet, you gain it. Silence turns the spotlight outward. When you talk, people study you. When you are silent, people reveal themselves. Train this discipline. When someone finishes speaking, pause 2 seconds, sometimes 3. Do not rush. Do not fill. Do not save them. Let the silence sit. If they had more to say, they will say it. And when they do, pay attention. That extra information is usually the truth they were not planning to reveal. The void forces truth. This mastery is not about personality. It is about discipline. You do not need to become quiet by nature. You need to become quiet by choice. Silence is not who you are. Silence is what you use. Embrace strategic silence. Speak only on purpose, and watch as your words gain weight. Your influence expands, and your power becomes undeniable. Chapter 5. Calm, confidence, and emotional stability. Your unshakable anchor. Calm confidence is perhaps the most universally attractive and influential quality a person can possess. Yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. It is not about being loud, aggressive, or dominating. It is not about never feeling fear, doubt, or uncertainty. Calm confidence is about maintaining your center and emotional equilibrium regardless of external circumstances, and it is this stability that others find magnetically attractive and reassuring. Calm's dominance. The psychology of calm confidence is rooted in what psychologists call emotional regulation and distress tolerance. People who possess calm confidence have developed the ability to experience difficult emotions without being controlled by them. They can feel anxiety without becoming anxious in their behavior. They can experience disappointment without becoming negative or reactive. They can face uncertainty without becoming paralyzed or frantic. This emotional stability is attractive on multiple levels. From an evolutionary perspective, emotional stability signals that someone would be a reliable partner, leader, or ally during difficult times. From a social perspective, emotional stability creates psychological safety for others, allowing them to relax and be more authentic in your presence. From a personal perspective, emotional stability creates a sense of groundedness and authenticity that others find compelling and trustworthy. The neuroscience behind emotional regulation reveals why this quality is so powerful. When you maintain emotional equilibrium under pressure, you are demonstrating advanced prefrontal cortex function, a part of the brain responsible for executive decision-making, impulse control, and emotional regulation. This is the most recently evolved part of the human brain, and its effective functioning signals high cognitive and emotional intelligence. People with calm confidence have typically learned to recognize the difference between feeling an emotion and being controlled by that emotion. They understand that emotions are temporary experiences that provide information about their internal state and external environment, but they do not allow these emotions to dictate their behavior or communication. This does not mean suppressing or denying difficult emotions. Emotional suppression actually creates more problems than it solves, and often leads to emotional explosions or passive-aggressive behavior. Instead, calm confidence involves acknowledging emotions while maintaining choice about how to respond to them. The development of calm confidence begins with understanding your emotional patterns and triggers. Most people have predictable emotional responses to certain situations, people, or stressors. They know they will feel anxious before public speaking, frustrated in traffic, or defensive when criticized. However, they often feel helpless to change these responses. Calm confidence develops when you learn to recognize these patterns early and intervene before they take control of your behavior. This requires developing what psychologists call metacognition, or thinking about your thinking. You learn to observe your emotional state from a slight distance, almost like a scientist studying an interesting phenomenon. The practice of mindfulness is fundamental to developing this observational capacity. Mindfulness does not mean being perpetually calm or zen. It means being aware of what is happening in your mind and body in real time, without judgment or the immediate need to change it. This awareness creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose your behavior rather than simply reacting automatically. Breathing is one of the most practical tools for maintaining calm confidence. Your breathing pattern directly affects your nervous system, and learning to breathe consciously allows you to regulate your emotional state in real time. When you notice yourself becoming triggered or reactive, a few deep, slow breaths can activate your parasympathetic nervous system and restore emotional equilibrium. Physical posture also plays a crucial role in calm confidence. Research from Harvard Business School shows that adopting confident postures for just 2 minutes can increase testosterone and decrease cortisol, creating genuine changes in confidence and stress levels. Standing tall, keeping your shoulders back, and maintaining an open chest position not only makes you look more confident, but actually makes you feel more confident. Calm confidence also involves developing what researchers call stress inoculation. This means gradually exposing yourself to manageable levels of stress, uncertainty, or challenge in order to build your tolerance and response skills. Just as physical exercise builds physical strength by subjecting muscles to controlled stress, emotional exercise builds emotional strength by subjecting your nervous system to controlled challenges. This might involve taking on public speaking opportunities, having difficult conversations you have been avoiding, or putting yourself in social situations that stretch your comfort zone. The key is to choose challenges that are difficult enough to promote growth but not so overwhelming that they create trauma or damage your confidence. The way you talk to yourself internally has a massive impact on your ability to maintain calm confidence. People with emotional stability have typically developed what psychologists call self-compassion, the ability to treat themselves with kindness and understanding during difficult moments rather than harsh self-criticism. Self-compassion does not mean making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It means recognizing that making mistakes, experiencing setbacks, and feeling difficult emotions are part of the human experience. It means talking to yourself the way you would talk to a good friend who was going through the same situation. This internal kindness creates emotional resilience because it prevents you from compounding difficulties with self-attack. When you make a mistake, instead of spiraling into shame and self-criticism, you can acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and move forward with your confidence intact. Calm confidence also involves accepting uncertainty as a fundamental part of life, rather than something to be eliminated or controlled. Many people destroy their emotional equilibrium by trying to predict, control, or guarantee outcomes that are inherently uncertain. They waste enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy trying to create certainty in an uncertain world. People with calm confidence have learned to be comfortable with not knowing how things will turn out. They understand that uncertainty is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be navigated skillfully. This acceptance allows them to take action without needing guarantees, to engage in relationships without needing to control outcomes, and to pursue goals without being attached to specific results. This comfort with uncertainty is deeply attractive because it signals emotional maturity and psychological strength. It demonstrates that you can be trusted to remain stable and functional even when things do not go according to plan. It shows that your sense of security comes from internal resources rather than external circumstances. The integration of all these elements, emotional regulation, mindfulness, physical presence, stress tolerance, self-compassion, and comfort with uncertainty, creates a quality of calm confidence that others find irresistibly attractive. It is not a performance or a facade. It is a genuine internal stability that naturally expresses itself in your presence, communication, and behavior. When you possess calm confidence, several things happen automatically. Your voice becomes more resonant and steady. Your eye contact becomes more direct and comfortable. Your movement becomes more fluid and purposeful. Your decision-making becomes clearer and more decisive. Your communication becomes more honest and direct. These changes occur naturally as expressions of your improved emotional regulation, not as behaviors you are trying to adopt. Remember, calm is dominance. Chapter 6. Developing Authentic Social Intelligence. Reading beyond the words. Social intelligence is the ability to navigate complex social situations with awareness, skill, and authenticity. It is not about manipulation or playing social games. It is about understanding the subtle dynamics of human interaction and responding in ways that create connection, trust, and mutual respect. This quality is incredibly attractive and influential because it signals emotional maturity, empathy, and the ability to create positive experiences for others. The foundation of social intelligence is emotional awareness, both of yourself and others. Most people go through social interactions with only surface-level awareness of the emotional undercurrents that are constantly flowing between people. They miss the subtle signs that someone is uncomfortable, the nonverbal cues that indicate interest or disinterest, and the emotional needs that lie beneath surface-level conversation. Developing emotional awareness begins with learning to read the emotional subtext of social interactions. Every conversation, every meeting, every social gathering has multiple layers of communication happening simultaneously. There is the surface level, what people are saying with their words. There is the emotional level, what people are feeling, and how those feelings are affecting their communication. And there is the relational level, how people are positioning themselves in relation to each other, and what social dynamics are at play. People with high social intelligence have learned to perceive and navigate all these levels simultaneously. They can engage in surface-level conversation, while remaining aware of emotional undercurrents and relational dynamics. This allows them to respond not just to what is being said, but to what is really happening in the interaction. The first component of emotional awareness is recognizing emotional states in others. This requires learning to read facial expressions, body language, vocal tonality, and energy levels. Most people focus primarily on words, but research shows that the majority of emotional communication happens through nonverbal channels. Learning to read emotional states involves paying attention to micro-expressions, brief, involuntary facial expressions that reveal genuine emotions. It involves noticing body language patterns that indicate comfort or discomfort, engagement or withdrawal, openness or defensiveness. It involves listening to vocal qualities like pace, tone, and volume that convey emotional information beyond the content of words. This skill develops through conscious practice and attention. Start by observing people in various settings and trying to identify their emotional states based on nonverbal cues. Watch how people's faces, postures, and energy levels change throughout conversations. Notice the difference between genuine and forced smiles, between authentic enthusiasm and polite interest, between comfortable silence and awkward tension. The second component of emotional awareness is understanding your own emotional impact on others. Most people are largely unconscious of the emotional effect they have in social situations. They do not realize that their anxiety makes others uncomfortable, that their excitement is overwhelming for some personality types, or that their intensity intimidates people who prefer gentler interaction styles. Developing awareness of your emotional impact requires honest self-reflection and feedback from others. It means paying attention to how people respond to your presence and communication style. Do people seem to relax or tense up around you? Do they open up or become more guarded? Do they seek out your company or seem to avoid deeper interactions? This awareness allows you to adjust your approach based on the situation and the people involved. It does not mean becoming a chameleon or losing your authenticity. It means understanding that emotional intelligence includes the ability to modulate your energy and communication style to create the most positive interactions possible. The third component of social intelligence is understanding group dynamics and social hierarchies. Every group, whether it is a family, workplace team, or social gathering, has implicit power structures, alliances, and communication patterns. People with high social intelligence can quickly assess these dynamics and navigate them skillfully. This involves recognizing who has formal and informal influence, understanding the unspoken rules and expectations of different social contexts, and knowing how to contribute to group interactions in ways that are valued and appreciated. It means understanding when to lead and when to follow, when to speak up, when to remain quiet, when to challenge and when to support. Social intelligence also involves what psychologists call cognitive empathy, the ability to understand and predict how others think and feel without necessarily feeling the same emotions yourself. This is different from emotional empathy, which involves actually feeling what others feel. Cognitive empathy allows you to understand and respond to others' perspectives without becoming emotionally overwhelmed or losing your own center. This skill is particularly valuable in conflict resolution, negotiation, and leadership situations. When you can understand how others see a situation, what their concerns and motivations are, and what they need to feel satisfied, you can find solutions that work for everyone involved. This ability to bridge different perspectives and find common ground is incredibly attractive and valuable in both personal and professional contexts. Furthermore, authentic social intelligence means paying attention to what people do, not just what they say. Words are cheap. Anyone can describe noble intentions or promise impressive outcomes. But actions tell the real story. Actions reveal who someone actually is, not who they want to be perceived as. Consistency matters more than expression. Frequency matters more than vocabulary. Patterns matter more than promises. When you shift to this mode of awareness, you see people more clearly, faster, and with fewer illusions. What someone says is about desire. What someone does is about priority. People do what they value. This removes emotional fog, saving you from investing in situations that have no future or chasing validation from people who do not truly value you. The integration of emotional awareness, impact consciousness, understanding group dynamics, cognitive empathy, communication adaptability, and an astute observation of behavior creates a quality of social intelligence that others find magnetic. When you develop authentic social intelligence, people feel comfortable and valued in your presence. They trust that you understand them, that you will not judge them harshly for their imperfections, and that you genuinely care about their experience. This creates the foundation for deep action that goes far beyond surface-level chemistry or superficial charm. Chapter 7. The Art of Purposeful Presence. What your body says without speaking. Your body is constantly communicating information about your internal state, confidence level, and social value. Every movement you make, every gesture you use, and every position you hold sends signals that others unconsciously interpret and respond to. Most people are completely unaware of these signals, moving through the world with unconscious patterns that often undermine their attractiveness and social impact. This is the art of purposeful presence, letting your body speak volumes without uttering a single word. The science of embodied cognition reveals that your physical posture and movement patterns do not just reflect your mental state, they actually influence and create your mental state. When you adopt confident postures and purposeful movement patterns, you do not just look more attractive, you actually become more confident, alert, and emotionally regulated. This creates a positive feedback loop, where improved physical presence enhances mental state, which further improves physical presence. Purposeful movement is characterized by several key qualities that distinguish it from the unconscious movement patterns most people exhibit. First is intentionality. Every movement serves a purpose and is executed with awareness rather than happening automatically or nervously. Second is fluidity. Movements flow smoothly from one to another, without jerky, abrupt, or hesitant transitions. Third is groundedness. Movements originate from a stable, centered base, rather than from tension or imbalance. The foundation of attractive physical presence is what martial artists and dancers call centering. This involves maintaining awareness of your physical center of gravity, typically located just below your navel, and moving from this stable base rather than from peripheral tension or imbalance. When you move from your center, your movements naturally become more fluid, purposeful, and graceful. Most people carry chronic tension in their shoulders, neck, or jaw, which creates movement patterns that appear anxious, rushed, or uncomfortable. Learning to consciously relax unnecessary tension while maintaining good posture and alert engagement is fundamental to attractive physical presence. This does not mean becoming loose or sloppy. It means finding the optimal balance between relaxation and readiness. Eye contact is perhaps the most powerful aspect of physical presence, yet most people use it poorly. Effective eye contact is not about staring intensely or maintaining constant visual contact. It is about making genuine, comfortable contact that demonstrates presence and interest without creating pressure or discomfort. The key is to make eye contact when listening, break it naturally when speaking or thinking, and return to it in a rhythm that feels organic and unforced. The quality of your eye contact should match the context and relationship. With close friends and intimate partners, longer periods of eye contact feel natural and connecting. With new acquaintances or in professional settings, briefer but genuine eye contact demonstrates respect and attention without creating intimacy pressure. Learning to calibrate your eye contact appropriately is a crucial social skill. Hand gestures and arm positioning also significantly impact how others perceive your confidence and attractiveness. Open gestures, where your palms are visible and your arms are uncrossed, signal openness and honesty. See closed gestures, where your arms are crossed or your hands are hidden, can signal defensiveness or discomfort. However, the key is authenticity rather than forcing open positions that do not feel natural. Walking patterns reveal enormous amounts of information about confidence and internal state. A confident walking is characterized by a steady pace, upright posture, and smooth gait. The head is held high, the shoulders are back, but not rigid, and the stride is neither rushed nor hesitant. The pace is determined by purpose rather than anxiety or self-consciousness. Many people walk too quickly because they are anxious or trying to appear busy and important. Others walk too slowly because they are uncertain or trying to avoid attention. Attractive walking finds the middle ground, moving with purpose and confidence at a pace that feels natural and unhurried. Sitting posture is equally important, particularly in social and professional settings, where you may be seated for extended periods. Attractive sitting involves maintaining an upright, but relaxed posture, keeping your feet grounded, and positioning your body in a way that demonstrates engagement with the environment and people around you. The way you use space also communicates important information about your confidence and social intelligence. Taking up appropriate space demonstrates confidence, while taking up too little space can signal insecurity, and taking up too much space can signal inconsideration or arrogance. Learning to gauge appropriate space usage in different contexts is a valuable social skill. Physical presence also involves being aware of and responsive to the physical comfort of others. This means maintaining appropriate personal space, being mindful of how your movements might affect others, and adjusting your physical presence based on the comfort levels and preferences of the people around you. Voice and speaking patterns are technically part of physical presence, since voice is produced by the physical mechanisms of breathing, posture, and muscle tension. Attractive vocal presence is characterized by speaking from a relaxed, grounded place rather than from tension or anxiety. This typically results in a slightly deeper, more resonant voice that carries well without being loud or forced. The pace of speech is also crucial. Many people speak too quickly when they are nervous or too slowly when they are uncertain. Attractive speech finds a moderate pace that allows for clear articulation and gives listeners time to process information without becoming bored or impatient. Developing purposeful movement and attractive physical presence requires conscious practice and body awareness. Start by spending time each day consciously observing your posture, movement patterns, and physical habits. Notice when you are holding tension, when your movements feel rushed or uncertain, and when your posture is closed or defensive. Practice basic centering exercises, such as standing with your feet shoulder-width apart, breathing deeply, and imagining roots growing from your feet into the ground. This helps develop the physical sense of groundedness that underlies all attractive movement. Work on individual elements like eye contact, hand gestures, and walking patterns in low-stakes situations before applying them in more important social or professional contexts. Remember that the goal is not to adopt a fake or performed physicality, but to develop authentic physical presence that reflects and supports your best self. Your body, when mastered, becomes a powerful instrument of silent influence. Chapter 8. Building Unshakable Inner Confidence. Through competence and restraint. True confidence cannot be faked, performed, or adopted as surface-level behavior. Authentic confidence emerges from competence, self-knowledge, and the accumulated evidence of your ability to handle challenges, learn from setbacks, and achieve meaningful goals. This inner confidence is far more attractive and influential than any external display of bravado. because it is genuine, stable, and grounded in reality, rather than insecurity or wishful thinking. Competence shows up in restraint. Strength stands still. The psychology of confidence reveals that it is not a fixed personality trait, but a dynamic state that emerges from the interaction between your capabilities, your self-perception, and your track record of success in handling life's challenges. People with genuine confidence have typically invested significant time and effort in developing real skills, knowledge, and emotional resilience that give them legitimate reasons to feel capable and self-assured. The foundation of unshakable confidence is competence development. This means becoming genuinely good at things that matter to you and that create value in the world. Whether it is professional skills, creative abilities, physical fitness, emotional intelligence, or problem-solving capabilities, developing real competence gives you something solid to feel confident about. Many people try to build confidence through positive thinking or affirmations, but this approach often fails because it is not grounded in reality. Our subconscious mind knows the difference between genuine capability and wishful thinking. Real confidence develops when your self-perception aligns with actual evidence of your abilities and achievements. The process of building competence requires embracing what psychologists call productive discomfort. This means regularly challenging yourself with tasks and goals that stretch your current abilities without overwhelming you completely. It means seeking out learning opportunities that require effort, persistence, and the willingness to make mistakes while improving. This is why confident people often have a history of pursuing challenging goals and persisting through difficulties. They have accumulated evidence that they can learn new things, overcome obstacles, and achieve objectives that initially seemed difficult or impossible. This track record creates a deep sense of self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle whatever challenges life presents. Self-knowledge is another crucial component of inner confidence. This involves understanding your strengths and weaknesses, your values and priorities, and your natural patterns of thinking and behaving. When you know yourself well, you are less likely to be thrown off balance by criticism, setbacks, or unexpected challenges because you have a stable sense of who you are and what you are capable of. Developing self-knowledge requires honest self-reflection, seeking feedback from others, and paying attention to your patterns of success and struggle across different areas of life. It means being willing to acknowledge both your capabilities and your limitations without defensiveness or harsh self-judgment. Confident people typically have a realistic but positive relationship with their limitations. They do not pretend to be good at everything or try to hide their weaknesses. Instead, they acknowledge their limitations, while focusing their energy on developing their strengths and working around or improving their weak areas when necessary. This honest self-assessment actually enhances rather than undermines confidence because it is based in reality rather than fantasy. When you know your genuine capabilities and limitations, you can make better decisions about what challenges to take on, what help to seek, and how to leverage your strengths most effectively. Inner confidence also requires developing what researchers call emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks, disappointments, and failures without losing your sense of self-worth or capability. This does not mean never feeling hurt, disappointed, or discouraged. It means having the internal resources to process these experiences and extract learning and growth from them. Emotional resilience develops through experience with adversity and a conscious development of coping strategies and support systems. Every time you face a challenge and find a way to handle it, you build evidence of your resilience and capability. Every time you experience a setback and recover from it, you develop confidence in your ability to handle future difficulties. The way you interpret and respond to failure significantly impacts your confidence development. People with growing confidence typically view failures as learning opportunities rather than evidence of inadequacy. They extract lessons from setbacks, adjust their approach, and continue working toward their goals, rather than giving up or seeing failure as confirmation of their limitations. This growth mindset, as researcher Carol Dweck calls it, is fundamental to building lasting confidence. It means viewing abilities as developable rather than fixed, seeing challenges as opportunities to grow rather than threats to your self-image, and understanding that effort and persistence are pathways to mastery rather than signs of inadequacy. Building inner confidence also requires taking calculated risks and stepping outside your comfort zone regularly. Confidence grows through expanding your sense of what is possible, what you can handle. This means saying yes to opportunities that stretch you, taking on challenges that require you to develop new skills, and putting yourself in situations where you might fail but will definitely learn. The key is to choose challenges that are within your zone of proximal development, difficult enough to promote growth but not so overwhelming that they create trauma or destroy your confidence. This requires honest assessment of your current capabilities and thoughtful progression toward more challenging goals. Social confidence, a specific aspect of inner confidence, develops through positive social experiences and the cultivation of genuine social skills. This means learning to communicate effectively, developing empathy and emotional intelligence, and building the ability to connect authentically with different types of people in various contexts. Many people struggle with social confidence because they focus on trying to impress others rather than developing the skills to connect genuinely and contribute positively to social interactions. Real social confidence comes from knowing that you can add value to others' lives, that you can handle social challenges gracefully, and that you can be authentically yourself in social situations. The development of inner confidence is a long-term process that requires patience, persistence, and self-compassion. It is not about becoming perfect or eliminating all self-doubt. It is about building a solid foundation of competence, self-knowledge, and resilience that allows you to navigate life's challenges with greater ease and effectiveness. When you possess genuine inner confidence, it naturally expresses itself in your presence, communication, and behavior without any need for performance or pretense. You become comfortable taking up appropriate space, expressing your thoughts and opinions, and pursuing your goals with determination and persistence. This authentic confidence is magnetic because others can sense its genuineness and stability. Chapter 9. The magnetism of genuine curiosity, unlocking deeper connections. In a world where most people are primarily focused on themselves, their own problems, and their own desires to be heard and understood, the person who possesses authentic curiosity about others stands out as remarkably attractive and magnetic. This is not about being nosy or intrusive. It is about having a genuine fascination with the complexity, experiences, and perspectives of other human beings. This genuine interest is a powerful key to unlocking deeper connections and profound influence. The psychology behind why curiosity is so attractive is rooted in fundamental human needs for validation, understanding, and connection. When someone shows genuine interest in who you are, what you think, and how you experience the world, it creates a powerful feeling of being valued and appreciated. This experience is rare enough that when people encounter it, they often find themselves drawn to the person who provided it. Authentic curiosity is different from polite interest or social obligation. It is a genuine desire to understand and learn from others, driven not by what you might gain from the interaction, but by inherent fascination with human complexity and diversity. People can sense the difference between someone who is asking questions because they think they should, someone who is genuinely interested in the answers. The development of authentic curiosity requires shifting from a self-focused to an other-focused mindset in social interactions. Instead of thinking about what you want to say next, how you are being perceived, or what you can get from the interaction, you focus your attention on understanding the person in front of you as completely as possible. This shift often reveals how interesting and complex other people actually are. Most social interactions remain at surface levels because neither person is genuinely curious enough to explore deeper layers of thought, experience, and perspective. When you approach others with real curiosity, you often discover fascinating aspects of their lives, thoughts, and experiences that would never emerge in typical social exchanges. Genuine curiosity expresses itself through the quality of questions you ask. You pay to answers. Curious people ask follow-up questions that demonstrate they have been listening and want to understand more deeply. They ask questions that invite people to explore their own thoughts and experiences rather than simply providing factual information. The difference between surface-level and deep curiosity is evident in question patterns. Surface-level curiosity might ask, "What do you do for work?" Deep curiosity might follow up with, "What drew you to that field?" Or, "What is the most challenging part of your work?" Or, "How has that work changed the way you see the world?" Authentic curiosity also involves being curious about people's inner experiences, not just their external circumstances. This means being interested in how people think and feel about their experiences, what they have learned from their challenges, what they are passionate about, and what drives their decisions and priorities. This level of curiosity requires emotional intelligence and social sensitivity because you need to gauge what people are comfortable sharing and how to ask about deeper topics without being invasive or inappropriate. The key is to create psychological safety through your own openness and non-judgmental attitude, making it easy for others to share authentically if they choose to. Curious people also tend to be excellent conversationalists because they know how to draw out the best in others. Ask questions that allow people to share their expertise, their passions, and their unique perspectives. They create opportunities for others to feel intelligent, interesting, and valued through the conversation. This ability to make others feel good about themselves through genuine interest is incredibly attractive because it is a form of emotional generosity. You are giving others the gift of your attention and interest, which often helps them see themselves in more positive light and feel more confident and appreciated. The practice of authentic curiosity also expands your own understanding of the world and human nature. Every person you encounter has had experiences you have never had, has knowledge you do not possess, and has perspectives that could expand your own thinking. Approaching others with curiosity means viewing every interaction as a potential learning opportunity. This learning mindset is attractive because it signals intellectual humility and openness to growth. People are drawn to those who are still learning, still growing, and still open to new ideas and perspectives. It suggests a mind that is not closed or arrogant, but is actively engaged with the complexity and diversity of human experience. Curiosity also involves being interested in people's stories, the narratives they tell about their lives, their challenges, and their growth. Frauenfleiss, everyone has a story, and most people rarely get the opportunity to share their story with someone who is genuinely interested in hearing it. When you provide that opportunity through authentic curiosity, you create a profound experience of connection and understanding. Being curious about others' stories does not mean being nosy about personal details. It means being interested in how people make sense of their experiences, what they have learned from their challenges, what they are proud of, and what they are working toward. Is the sondmess that make up the narrative of a person's life and reveal who they are at a deeper level. When you develop authentic curiosity, the core part of how you engage with others, several things happen naturally. People seek out your company because they enjoy how they feel when talking with you. They share more openly because they trust your genuine interest. They view you as someone who understands and appreciates them for who they really are. This creates the foundation for deep attraction that goes far beyond surface-level chemistry or social performance. Chapter 10. Mastering Nonverbal Communication and Subtle Influence. Beyond the spoken word, the vast majority of human communication happens below the level of conscious awareness, through micro-expressions, body language, vocal tonality, and energy patterns that our brains process instantaneously, but rarely analyze explicitly. People with magnetic attraction and profound influence have typically developed, often unconsciously, the ability to communicate powerfully through these nonverbal channels while remaining exquisitely sensitive to the nonverbal communications of others. This is the realm of subtle influence, where unspoken cues speak louder than any words. The science of nonverbal communication reveals that humans are constantly transmitting and receiving emotional and social information through channels that operate faster than conscious thought. Within milliseconds of encountering someone, your brain has assessed their emotional state, confidence level, social status, and potential threat or attraction level based primarily on nonverbal cues. This means that your nonverbal communication is constantly shaping how others perceive and respond to you, regardless of what you are saying with words. People who understand and master these subtle communication channels have an enormous advantage in creating attraction, influence, and connection because they are communicating effectively on the channels that have the greatest impact. Foundation of powerful nonverbal communication is congruence between your internal state and external expression. When your thoughts, emotions, and intentions are aligned and authentic, your nonverbal communication naturally becomes more powerful and attractive. When there is incongruence between what you are thinking and feeling internally and what you are expressing externally, people sense something is off, even if they cannot articulate what it is. This is why working on your internal state is so crucial for developing attractive nonverbal communication. You cannot fake the micro-expressions, energy patterns, and subtle cues that emerge from genuine confidence, emotional stability, and authentic interest in others. These qualities must be developed genuinely to be communicated authentically. Facial expressions are one of the most powerful forms of nonverbal communication. Yet most people are largely unconscious of what their face is communicating. Research has identified dozens of distinct facial expressions if it conveys specific emotions and social information. Learning to recognize these expressions in others and become more conscious of your own facial communication can dramatically improve your social effectiveness. The most important facial communication skills involve eye contact patterns, genuine versus forced smiling, and overall facial relaxation. Genuine eye contact involves looking at someone when they are speaking to demonstrate attention and respect, making contact when you are speaking to emphasize important points, and breaking contact naturally to avoid creating intensity or pressure. A genuine smile involves not just the mouth, but the entire face, particularly the eyes. Fake smiles are easily detected because they do not engage the muscles around the eyes that create the slight squinting and wrinkles that accompany authentic positive emotion. Learning to smile genuinely when you feel positive, and to maintain a neutral but pleasant expression when you do not feel particularly positive, is more attractive than forcing fake smiles. Vocal tonality carries enormous amounts of emotional and social information. The pace, pitch, volume, and resonance of your voice communicate confidence, emotional state, and social positioning more powerfully than the words you are speaking. Most people are unconscious of their vocal patterns and how they affect others' perceptions and responses. Attractive vocal communication is typically characterized by speaking from a relaxed, grounded place in your body, rather than from tension or anxiety. This usually results in a slightly deeper, more resonant voice that carries well without being loud or forced. The pace is moderate, allowing for clear articulation and giving listeners time to process information. Vocal confidence also involves being comfortable with pauses and silence, rather than filling every moment with sound. Strategic pauses can emphasize important points, give others time to respond, and demonstrate that you are not anxious about maintaining constant verbal output. Posture and body positioning communicate social status, confidence, and emotional state more quickly than any other form of nonverbal communication. Open, upright postures generally signal confidence and approachability, while closed, collapsed postures tend to signal insecurity or defensiveness. However, the key is not to adopt rigid power poses, but to find postures that feel both confident and authentic to you. This usually involves maintaining an upright spine, keeping your shoulders back but relaxed, and positioning your body in a way that demonstrates engagement with your environment and the people in it. The way you use space also communicates important social information. Taking up appropriate space demonstrates confidence without being inconsiderate. Gesture patterns significantly impact how your communication is received and understood. Open gestures, where your palms are visible and your movements are fluid, tend to be perceived as more trustworthy and engaging than closed gestures or sharp, jerky movements. Energy and presence are perhaps the most subtle but powerful forms of nonverbal communication. Your overall energy level, emotional state, and quality of attention create an invisible but palpable influence on everyone around you. People can sense whether you are genuinely present and engaged, or distracted and disconnected, whether you are calm and centered, or anxious and scattered. Developing attractive energy and presence requires working on your internal state through practices like meditation, physical exercise, emotional regulation techniques, and stress management. When your internal state is calm, confident, and genuinely interested in others, this naturally expresses itself in your energy and presence, without any need for performance or technique. Subtle influence through nonverbal communication involves understanding how your presence affects others and learning to create positive experiences for the people around you. This does not mean manipulation or trying to control others' responses. It means becoming skilled at creating environments where others feel comfortable, valued, and appreciated. This might involve matching the energy level of others when appropriate, using mirroring techniques to create unconscious rapport, or simply maintaining such positive, stable energy that others feel better when they are around you. The goal is always to create mutual benefit and positive experiences, rather than one-sided advantage. Remember, silence turns the spotlight outward. When you talk, people study you. When you are silent, people reveal themselves. The mastery of nonverbal communication is not about becoming a perfect performer, but about developing authentic presence and communication skills that allow your best qualities to be expressed naturally and powerfully. When your nonverbal communication is congruent with your genuine thoughts and feelings, it becomes a powerful tool for creating attraction, connection, and positive influence in all your relationships. Chapter 11. Creating meaningful connections without neediness. The power of self-possession. The ability to form deep, meaningful connections with others, while maintaining your own center and independence, is perhaps the most attractive and liberating quality a person can possess. This skill allows you to engage authentically and openly with others without the energy-draining neediness or desperate attachment that repels people and prevents genuine intimacy from developing. In short, it is the power of self-possession that makes true connection possible. The psychology of neediness reveals why it is so destructive to attraction and connection. When you approach relationships from a place of need or desperation, you are essentially communicating that you do not have enough internal resources to feel complete or secure on your own. This creates pressure for the other person to fill your emotional needs. which most people find overwhelming and unattractive. Neediness also distorts your ability to see and respond to others clearly, because you are filtering everything through the lens of your own unmet needs. Instead of being genuinely curious about others and responsive to their needs and preferences, you become focused primarily on what you can get from them to feel better about yourself. Is why a central truth is that approval is expensive. Followers spend their lives trying to earn it. Leaders know they do not need it. The foundation of creating meaningful connections without neediness is developing what psychologists call secure attachment and emotional independence. This does not mean being emotionally unavailable or refusing to depend on others in healthy ways. It means having enough internal stability and self-worth that you can engage in relationships from a place of choice rather than desperation. Emotional independence develops through building a solid relationship with yourself, developing internal resources for emotional regulation and self-soothing, and creating a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling, independent of romantic or social relationships. When your sense of worth and security comes primarily from internal sources, you can engage with others from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. This internal abundance allows you to approach relationships with what researchers call generous curiosity. Instead of being primarily focused on what you can get from interactions, you become genuinely interested in understanding, appreciating, and supporting others. This shift in focus from taking to giving is one of the most attractive transformations a person can make. The practice of generous curiosity involves approaching others with genuine interest in their well-being, their thoughts and experiences, and their growth and happiness. It means asking questions because you truly want to understand, rather than because you are trying to create a good impression. It means offering support and encouragement because you genuinely care, rather than because you are hoping for something in return. This does not mean becoming a people pleaser or sacrificing your own needs and boundaries. Healthy connection requires maintaining your own center while being genuinely responsive to others. It means learning to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion, and knowing when to give and when to maintain appropriate boundaries. Creating meaningful connections also requires developing what attachment researchers call differentiation, the ability to remain yourself while in close relationship with others. Many people lose themselves in relationships, adopting the interests, opinions, and preferences of others in an attempt to maintain connection and approval. This loss of self actually undermines rather than enhances connection because it eliminates the very uniqueness and authenticity that made you attractive in the first place. Meaningful relationships require two whole, independent people choosing to share their lives, rather than two incomplete people trying to merge into one. Maintaining differentiation means staying connected to your own values, interests, and goals, even when they differ from those of people you care about. It means being willing to disagree, to maintain your own opinions, and to pursue your own path, even when others might prefer you to conform or accommodate. The ability to create meaningful connections also requires developing comfort with vulnerability and emotional intimacy. Many people keep relationships at surface levels because they are afraid of being truly seen and potentially rejected. However, real connection requires the willingness to share your authentic thoughts, feelings, and experiences, even when they are not perfectly polished or impressive. Healthy vulnerability is different from emotional dumping or oversharing. It involves sharing appropriate levels of authenticity based on the level of relationship and the other person's capacity to receive and respond supportively. It means being genuine about your experiences while taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being. The development of meaningful connection skills also involves learning to handle conflict and disagreement constructively, rather than avoiding it or allowing it to destroy relationships. Many people are so afraid of conflict that they either avoid expressing their needs and preferences or become aggressive when differences arise. Healthy relationship skills include the ability to express disagreement respectfully, to listen to others' perspectives without becoming defensive, and to work together to find solutions that honor both people's needs and preferences. This requires emotional regulation, communication skills, and the confidence that relationships can survive and even be strengthened by working through difficulties together. Creating meaningful connections without neediness also involves developing realistic expectations about relationships and other people. Needy people often expect others to meet needs that are impossible for any single person to fulfill, such as making them feel completely secure, validating all their choices, or eliminating all their loneliness and self-doubt. Realistic expectations recognize that every person has limitations, that all relationships have challenges, and that no relationship can meet all your needs for connection, understanding, and validation. This understanding allows you to appreciate what others can offer while taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being and life satisfaction. The practice of creating meaningful connections also involves learning to be present with others without agenda. Many people approach social interactions with hidden agendas, whether it is trying to impress others, get something they need, or avoid rejection or criticism. These agendas create subtle pressure that others can sense and find uncomfortable. Being present without agenda means approaching interactions with openness to whatever unfolds naturally. It means being willing to have conversations that do not lead anywhere specific, to enjoy someone's company without needing to achieve any particular outcome, and to let relationships develop at their own pace without forcing or manipulating their direction. This presence without agenda is incredibly attractive because it allows others to relax and be authentic. When people sense that you are not trying to get something from them or manipulate them toward a particular outcome, they can engage more openly and genuinely. The integration of emotional independence, generous curiosity, healthy differentiation, appropriate vulnerability, conflict resolution skills, realistic expectations, and agenda-free presence creates the capacity for meaningful connection that enhances, rather than drains, everyone involved. When you possess these qualities, people naturally want to spend time with you because they feel better about themselves, more alive when they are in your presence. This approach to relationships creates upward spirals, where positive interactions lead to deeper trust, which leads to more authentic sharing, which leads to stronger connection, which creates more positive interactions. The result is relationships that enrich everyone involved and serve as a source of attraction for others who want to experience the same quality of connection in their own lives. Chapter 12. Navigating Complex Social Dynamics. Leadership in Quiet Command. The ability to quickly assess and skillfully navigate complex social dynamics is one of the most sophisticated forms of social intelligence, and it is incredibly attractive and influential because it demonstrates emotional maturity, awareness, and the ability to create positive experiences for everyone involved. Most people are largely unconscious of the invisible social currents that flow through every group interaction, missing crucial information that could help them connect more effectively and contribute more positively. This is leadership in quiet command. Every social group, whether it is a family gathering, workplace meeting, or party with friends, has multiple layers of dynamics operating simultaneously. There are formal hierarchies and informal power structures, existing relationships, tensions, unspoken rules and expectations, and individual personalities with different needs and communication styles. People who can perceive and navigate these dynamics skillfully become natural leaders and sought-after companions. Foundation of reading social dynamics is developing what researchers call social situational awareness. This involves stepping back from your own concerns and anxieties to observe the broader patterns of interaction, the emotional undercurrents, and the needs and motivations of different individuals within the group context. Most people enter social situations focused primarily on their own performance, worrying about how they are being perceived, what they should say next, or whether they are fitting in appropriately. This self-focused attention prevents them from seeing the rich complexity of social information that is constantly available. Shifting to social situational awareness means asking different questions. What is the overall energy and mood of this group? Who are the formal and informal leaders? What are the unspoken tensions or alliances? Who seems comfortable and who seems out of place? What does this particular group value and appreciate? How can I contribute positively to the collective experience? The skill of reading power dynamics is particularly important for navigating complex social situations effectively. Every group has both formal authority structures and informal influence patterns. Understanding who has what kind of power and how they use it allows you to position yourself appropriately and contribute in ways that are valued and appreciated. Formal power is usually obvious through titles, roles, or explicit authority. Informal power is more subtle and emerges through things like expertise, charisma, social connections, or the ability to influence group decisions and directions. Often the people with the most informal power are not the ones with the highest formal titles. Learning to recognize informal power requires paying attention to who others look to for opinions, whose suggestions get implemented, who can change the mood or direction of conversations, and who seems to have the most social capital within the group. These observations help you understand the real dynamics rather than just the surface-level organization chart. The ability to read emotional undercurrents is equally important for social navigation. Groups always have emotional dynamics that are separate from the explicit content of conversations. There might be excitement, tension, boredom, anxiety, competition, or affection flowing between different members, and these emotions significantly affect how interactions unfold. Developing emotional radar involves paying attention to body language, vocal tonality, energy levels, and the subtle shifts that occur when certain topics are raised or certain people speak. You start to notice when someone's words do not match their emotional state, when there are undiscussed tensions between individuals, or when the group energy changes in response to particular triggers. Understanding group roles and dynamics also helps you navigate complex interactions more skillfully. Different people naturally fall into different roles within groups: the leader, the supporter, the challenger, the peacemaker, the entertainer, the observer. Recognizing these patterns helps you understand how you can contribute most effectively and how to work with rather than against the natural group dynamics. Sometimes the most valuable contribution you can make is stepping into a role that is missing or supporting someone who is already filling an important role effectively. If there is natural leadership emerging, you might be most helpful by being an effective supporter rather than competing for leadership. If there is conflict, you might be most valuable as a peacemaker rather than taking sides. The skill of strategic positioning involves understanding how to place yourself within group dynamics to maximize your positive impact and minimize unnecessary conflict or tension. This does not mean being manipulative or fake. It means being thoughtful about how your natural personality and strengths can best serve the group's needs and goals. Strategic positioning also involves knowing when to lead and when to follow, when to speak up and when to listen, when to challenge and when to support. These decisions should be based on reading the current dynamics and understanding what the group needs in that moment rather than following rigid personal patterns or trying to always play the same role. Advanced social navigation also requires understanding and respecting different communication styles and cultural backgrounds within diverse groups. What feels like confident leadership to one person might feel like aggression to another. What seems like appropriate directness to some might feel rude or insensitive to others with different cultural backgrounds or personality types. This cultural and stylistic sensitivity allows you to adapt your communication approach based on the preferences and comfort levels of different individuals within the group. It does not mean losing your authenticity. It means expressing your authenticity in ways that can be received and appreciated by diverse audiences. The ability to diffuse tension and redirect negative dynamics is one of the most valuable social skills you can develop. Groups inevitably experience moments of conflict, misunderstanding, or negative emotion. And someone who can skillfully address these situations without making them worse is incredibly valuable and attractive. Tension diffusion might involve acknowledging different perspectives without taking sides, introducing humor appropriately to lighten the mood, redirecting conversation toward common ground, or simply modeling the calm, respectful energy that you want to see in the group. The key is intervening early before conflicts escalate and become more difficult to resolve. Reading and responding to group energy levels is another sophisticated social skill. Groups have natural rhythms of energy that ebb and flow throughout interactions. Sometimes the energy is high and playful. Sometimes it is serious and focused. Sometimes it is tired and ready for closure. Matching and working with these energy patterns rather than fighting against them makes you a more effective and appreciated group member. This might mean introducing energizing activities when the group seems sluggish, suggesting more relaxed conversation when people seem overstimulated, or recognizing when it is time to transition different topics or conclude the interaction. Being attuned to group energy and responsive to group needs demonstrates sophisticated social intelligence that others find attractive and valuable. The development of these skills requires conscious practice and observation. Start by focusing on one aspect at a time, such as power dynamics or emotional undercurrents, until you become more naturally aware of these patterns. Practice in lower-stakes situations before applying these skills in more important professional or social contexts. Remember that the goal is not to manipulate or control group dynamics, but to understand them well enough to contribute positively and navigate them skillfully. When you can read social situations accurately and respond appropriately, you become someone others seek out for important interactions, because they trust your judgment and value your positive influence. This is true leadership. Quiet command, felt more than heard. Chapter 13. Protecting your energy and plans. The strategic advantage of withholding every conversation, every explanation, every disclosure costs something. It costs attention, emotional bandwidth, time, and energy. Most people never notice the cost because conversations feel harmless. A little gossip here, a little debate there, a little arguing, a little proving, a little defending. It does not feel like much in the moment. But day after day, year after year, these small drains add up. And while people wonder why their mind is tired, why they feel overwhelmed, or why they cannot focus on things that actually matter. The answer is often hidden inside the conversations they give their energy to, without any thought at all. Influence is not just about what you say. It is about where you invest your voice. And investing your voice into conversations with no return is like throwing money at investments that never pay you back. You walk away poorer, poorer in time, poorer in clarity, poorer in peace. Conversations are either deposits or withdrawals. They either build something or drain something. And part of becoming influential is learning the difference. A conversation with no return is a conversation that does not move anything forward. It does not deepen understanding. It does not solve a problem. It does not build a relationship. And it does not create clarity. It just feeds impulse. Gossip is a classic example. It gives a quick hit of stimulation, a sense of involvement, maybe even superiority, but it returns nothing. It does not improve your character, your goals, your behavior, your mindset, or your influence. It only consumes time and attention while pretending to be social interaction. Another category of low-return conversations are arguments that lead nowhere. Two people debating not to understand each other, but to win. If you have ever left a conversation like that feeling exhausted, you have experienced the withdrawal, no understanding gained, no resolution achieved, just energy burned. And most arguments do not even need to happen. They are ego performances disguised as communication. One person wants to feel right, the other wants to feel heard. No one wants to learn. When no one wants to learn, the conversation has already failed. Then there are conversations that are built on appealing for approval, explaining your decisions to people who would be happier if you did not succeed, lowering your goals to make others comfortable, defending your path to people who have not built anything themselves. None of these return value. They steal it. They steal momentum. They steal confidence. They steal ambition. They steal peace. And the ego keeps paying the bill because the ego hates being misunderstood. One of the greatest upgrades you can make in your life is becoming selective about who gets access to your mental and emotional resources. Not everyone deserves a debate. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Not everyone deserves clarification. Not everyone deserves your time, your attention, or your voice. Influence requires conservation. It requires the ability to protect your energy the way wise people protect their money, by refusing to spend it frivolously. This does not mean you cut off communication. It means you elevate it. Conversations with return are conversations that build. They build understanding. They build alignment. They build strategy. They build relationships. They build perspective. They build clarity. All of these outcomes strengthen you. They move you forward instead of sideways. When you start to prioritize conversations that build instead of conversations that drain, your life begins to compound. This principle extends profoundly to your plans and ambitions. There is a stage in every ambition when it is fragile, not because the idea is weak, but because ideas need protection, for they have structure. They need time to mature, time to align, time to survive doubt, your doubt, and everyone else's. When you talk too early about what you are going to do, you invite the world into a room that is not ready for guests. Once people enter that room, they bring their opinions, their fears, their projections, and their judgments with them. And those voices can suffocate a plan before it ever breathes on its own. Talking about a plan feels satisfying. It feels productive. It feels like progress. Sharing it gives you a surge of validation. People get excited. They applaud. They admire your ambition. The problem is that this validation gives you the reward before you have earned it. And the brain is tricky here. Once it gets the reward, the motivation to do the real work decreases. Ambition becomes performance instead of execution. Dreams become social content instead of private commitments. But validation is not the only danger of speaking too soon. Doubt is just as powerful. Some people doubt you openly. Others doubt you quietly. And their doubt has a way of seeping into your own thinking, especially early on when your confidence is still forming. People project their limitations onto others without even realizing it. They tell you it is risky, unrealistic, or unnecessary. Their fear becomes your resistance, and suddenly your idea feels heavier than before. Keeping your plans quiet protects them from premature exposure. It gives you time to experiment without an audience. It gives you permission to change direction without feeling embarrassed. It gives you room to evolve, for anyone forms an opinion about what you are doing. Growth needs privacy. Privacy gives you control, and control gives you power. The fewer people who know what you are building, the fewer obstacles you have to manage. Opinions are obstacles. Expectations are obstacles. Comparisons are obstacles. The more noise around your plan, the more energy you spend responding to the noise instead of responding to the work. Silence removes the noise. Silence keeps the focus where it belongs. But secrecy is not forever. There comes a point when a plan becomes strong enough that criticism cannot kill it, doubt cannot shrink it, and opinions cannot derail it. By then, the foundation is built, the momentum is real, the structure exists. When a plan reaches that phase, sharing it is no longer a liability, it is a statement of progress. People do not get to weigh in on your intention. They get to witness your execution. This quiet period also reveals who genuinely supports you. Some people only support what is visible. They cheer when the results appear because results are easy to applaud. But the people who support you in silence, when you are still figuring things out, when you are unsure, when you have not produced anything yet, those are the people who do not need proof. It's the builder, not just the building. If you want a practical method for filtering conversations and protecting plans, here is a simple question to ask. Is this helping me or just consuming me? If it is helping, stay in it. If it is consuming, step out politely, calmly, and without drama. You do not need to announce your exit. You do not need to justify your silence. You do not need to explain why you are no longer participating. Quietly withdrawing from low-return interactions is a form of self-respect. With time, something interesting happens. The less energy you waste, the more influence you gain, because you are no longer drained by distractions. You have more capacity for strategy, more space for clarity, and more patience for decisions that actually matter. You become someone whose presence feels intentional, someone who does not talk just to fill the air, someone who treats their voice and their vision like a resource, not a reflex. Guard your inner world. Chapter 14. Responding to rejection and criticism. Grace under fire. Nothing tests your attractiveness, social intelligence, and inner strength like how you handle rejection, criticism, and social setbacks. These challenging experiences are inevitable parts of life, and your response to them either enhances or undermines your appeal to others. People who can navigate these difficulties with grace, learn from them constructively, and maintain their confidence and warmth despite setbacks are incredibly attractive and influential because they demonstrate emotional maturity and resilience. Calm is dominance, especially under fire. The psychology of rejection reveals why it affects people so powerfully, and why learning to handle it well is so important for maintaining attractiveness. From an evolutionary perspective, social rejection was literally life-threatening for our ancestors because survival depended on remaining part of the group. Our brains still process rejection as a threat to survival, which explains why it can feel so devastatingly painful. However, in modern life, most social rejection is not actually threatening to your survival or well-being. Learning to differentiate between the emotional intensity of rejection and its actual significance allows you to respond more proportionally and maintain your emotional equilibrium when facing social disappointments. The most attractive people understand that rejection often has little to do with their inherent worth or attractiveness, and much more to do with compatibility, timing, circumstances, and the other person's current needs and preferences. This perspective allows them to take rejection personally without taking it as a judgment of their fundamental value as a person. Developing this healthy perspective requires understanding that attraction and compatibility are highly subjective and contextual. Someone might reject you not because you are unattractive or unworthy, but because you are not what they are looking for at this particular time, because you remind them of someone who hurt them, because they are dealing with personal issues that make relationships difficult, or simply because there is no chemistry, despite your individual qualities. This understanding allows you to maintain compassion for both yourself and the other person when rejection occurs. Instead of becoming bitter, defensive, or self-attacking, you can acknowledge the disappointment while recognizing that rejection is often about incompatibility rather than inadequacy. The skill of handling criticism gracefully is equally important for maintaining attractiveness and continuing to grow. Criticism, whether constructive or not, tends to trigger defensive responses that can make you less attractive and prevent you from learning valuable information about yourself and your impact on others. Influential people have learned to receive criticism with curiosity rather than defensiveness. They listen to understand what truth might be present in the feedback, even if it is delivered poorly or with negative intentions. They separate the useful information from the emotional charge and use criticism as data for self-improvement rather than evidence of personal attack. This does not mean accepting all criticism as valid or allowing others to treat you disrespectfully. It means developing the emotional regulation skills to hear feedback without immediately becoming reactive and the discernment to evaluate whether criticism contains useful information for your growth. The practice of extracting value from negative feedback requires asking yourself questions like, is there any truth in this criticism that I can learn from? Might I be doing that is creating this response in others? How can I use this information to improve? What does this tell me about this person's values or preferences? This learning orientation toward criticism makes you more attractive because it demonstrates intellectual humility, emotional maturity, and commitment to growth. People are drawn to those who can handle feedback well, because it signals that you are safe to be honest with, and that relationships with you will involve mutual growth rather than defensive interactions. Social setbacks, such as embarrassing moments, social mistakes, or conflicts with others, provide opportunities to demonstrate resilience and grace under pressure. Everyone experiences these situations, but how you handle them significantly affects how others perceive you and whether they want to continue interacting with you. The most attractive response to social setbacks involves acknowledging what happened without dramatizing it, taking appropriate responsibility without excessive self-blame, learning from the experience without becoming paralyzed by it, and moving forward with confidence intact. This might involve offering a genuine apology when appropriate, using appropriate humor to diffuse tension, or simply acknowledging a mistake and moving on without making it the center of attention. The key is responding proportionally, rather than either minimizing serious issues or catastrophizing minor mistakes. Developing resilience requires building what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the ability to see situations from multiple perspectives and find constructive meanings even in difficult experiences. Instead of interpreting setbacks as evidence of personal failure or social inadequacy, resilient people view them as learning opportunities, character-building experiences, or simply part of the normal challenges of human interaction. This cognitive flexibility allows you to maintain hope and motivation, even when things do not go as planned. You can experience disappointment without becoming discouraged, face criticism without becoming defensive, and encounter rejection without losing confidence in your worth and attractiveness. The practice of self-compassion is fundamental to handling social difficulties gracefully. This involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a good friend going through similar challenges. Instead of harsh self-criticism when things go wrong, self-compassion involves acknowledging that difficulties are part of the human experience and that you deserve kindness, especially from yourself. Self-compassion does not mean making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It means recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, faces rejection, and experiences social difficulties, and that these experiences do not negate your value or potential for future success. Maintaining perspective during difficult social experiences requires remembering that most social interactions and relationships are part of larger patterns rather than isolated events. One rejection does not mean you are universally unattractive. One criticism does not mean you are fundamentally flawed. One social mistake does not mean you are socially incompetent. This broader perspective allows you to maintain confidence and motivation, even when individual interactions do not go well. You can view setbacks as temporary experiences rather than permanent judgments, which allows you to continue taking social risks and pursuing connections without being paralyzed by fear of negative outcomes. The ability to bounce back quickly from social difficulties is incredibly attractive because it signals emotional resilience and stability. People want to be around those who will not be devastated by normal life challenges, who can handle conflict and disappointment without becoming dramatic or dysfunctional, and who will remain positive and engaging even when things get difficult. This resilience develops through experience with adversity and conscious practice of healthy coping strategies. Each time you face a social challenge and handle it well, you build evidence of your ability to cope with difficulties, which increases your confidence for future challenges. Learning from setbacks without becoming bitter or cynical requires maintaining openness to growth while protecting your fundamental sense of self-worth. This means being willing to acknowledge and correct mistakes while recognizing that mistakes do not define you, being open to feedback while maintaining healthy boundaries, and continuing to take social risks while learning from past experiences. The integration of a healthy perspective on rejection, graceful handling of criticism, resilient response to setbacks, cognitive flexibility, self-compassion, and the ability to learn from difficulties creates an approach to social challenges that actually enhances, rather than undermines, your attractiveness. When others see that you can handle difficulties with grace and continue growing from challenging experiences, they are more likely to trust you, respect you, and want to build deeper relationships with you. This approach to social difficulties also creates positive cycles. Your resilient responses to challenges improve your social skills, increase your confidence, and make you more attractive to others, which leads to more positive social experiences, greater overall social success. Chapter 15. The Unpredictable Leader. Making your words rare to carry weight. One of the fastest ways to lose influence is to speak so often that your words become ordinary, common, expected, and easy to ignore. When something is always available, people stop paying attention to it, not because it lacks value, but because it lacks scarcity. Influence works differently. Influence thrives on economy. When your words are rare, people lean in and listen. When they are constant, people tune out. This is the mark of the unpredictable leader, someone whose measured speech carries undeniable weight. Think about the people in your life who talk endlessly. They narrate every thought, respond to every comment, and fill every silence. At first, you might pay attention, but over time, their words blend into the background. They become noise rather than signal. Now think about someone who speaks less frequently, someone who waits, who observes, who does not jump into every conversation. When they'll finally speak, you notice. You lean in. You assume what they are about to say matters because they do not say everything that crosses their mind. This is not magic. It is the psychology of scarcity. Humans attach value to what feels limited. That principle applies to money, to opportunities, to time, and to speech. When something is limited, we become attentive. We assign importance to it. We assume intention behind it. The person who speaks with restraint naturally creates this effect without having to demand it. Saying less than you know also protects you from being predictable. Predictability makes you easy to read, easy to manipulate, and easy to control. When someone knows exactly how you will react, they can shape the environment to get the reaction they want. But when you are not easily read, people must approach you differently. They become more careful with their words. They choose their requests more thoughtfully. They respect your boundaries without you having to declare them. It is a subtle shift, but it changes the entire relationship dynamic. Predictability also shows up in how people share their information. Many individuals talk through their decisions while they are still forming them. They narrate their thought process. They explain their concerns. They broadcast their next steps. It makes them feel validated and included, but it makes them strategically vulnerable. When others know the whole blueprint, they know where to push, where to stall, where to discourage, and where to influence you away from your own objectives. Builders understand this instinctively. They do not reveal the blueprint until the structure can stand on its own. Making your words rare does not mean becoming antisocial or silent to the point of isolation. It means eliminating the unnecessary. It means speaking with purpose instead of reflex. It means filtering your thoughts before letting them escape your mouth. And it means understanding the difference between speaking to contribute and speaking just to participate. There is a powerful rule in influence. If you want people to listen when you speak, do not speak every time you feel the urge. Talking constantly is a form of self-sabotage. It reveals too much too quickly without giving your thoughts time to mature. It also invites criticism, argument, and intervention prematurely. But when you speak selectively, you protect your thoughts until they are strong enough to withstand scrutiny. This principle applies directly to leadership. Weak leaders talk excessively to assert control. Strong leaders speak sparingly to provide direction. The room shapes itself around their words because those words are not cheap. They are not scattered. They come with intent. When a leader who speaks rarely offers guidance, the team listens not out of fear, but out of respect for the weight of that guidance. There is also a connection between speech and ego. The ego wants to speak because the ego wants attention. It wants to prove itself, correct others, or demonstrate intelligence. But the desire to be seen as smart often prevents people from actually becoming smart. The people who grow the most are the ones who listen the most because listening is input, and speaking is output. If you are always outputting, you have no input. Without input, you cannot expand. Without expansion, your influence shrinks. Restraint is also a form of discipline. It requires you to hold back when others rush forward. It forces you to analyze situations before participating in them. When someone asks you a question or challenges you, or tries to provoke you into speaking, restraint gives you time to decide if responding benefits you, or merely satisfies the other person's curiosity. Not every invitation to speak is worth accepting. Silence can be a refusal disguised as composure. There is an additional benefit. You gain protection. The more someone talks, the more ammunition they provide against themselves in conflict, in negotiation, in strategy, and in social dynamics. Information can be used. It can be leveraged. It can be misinterpreted. It can be weaponized. When you speak less, you minimize leakage. You control visibility. You decide what others know about you instead of letting them gather unlimited data points through your speech. This makes you harder to predict, harder to manipulate, and harder to undermine. If you want a practical way to apply this principle, start with a simple filter. Before you speak, ask yourself whether your words will build something: clarity, connection, direction, understanding, or progress. If not, consider whether silence would serve better. Silence is not passive. Silence can communicate boundaries, priorities, confidence, or refusal. Silence can show respect or disagreement without escalating anything. Over time, you will notice a subtle shift. People begin paying more attention, not just to what you say, but to when you choose to say it. They notice that when you speak, you add value. They notice that your contributions are not random. They notice that you listen first and speak after. This pattern builds credibility, and credibility builds influence. The ultimate goal is not to speak less for the sake of reduction. It is to speak less so your words matter more. It is to make your voice a tool instead of a habit. It is to ensure that when you talk, you are not just adding noise to the world, but signal. Words lose power when they are abundant. They gain power when they are earned. When you make your words rare enough to carry weight, you no longer need to demand attention. Attention arrives on its own. Say it once. Chapter 16. Silent Intimidation and Negotiation Mastery. Winning without shouting. Silence is a powerful weapon in the arenas of confrontation and negotiation. Most people fear silence. They think gaps in conversation are uncomfortable. They panic. They fill the space with words. That is the trap. But the one who can tolerate this discomfort controls the pace, the direction, and often the outcome. In these crucial moments, silence is not emptiness. It is leverage. It is intimidation. And it is the ultimate path to winning without shouting. The core principle is: wait, watch, win. Let us first address silent intimidation. Silence is not passive. Silence is not absence. Silence is power. When used intentionally, silence becomes intimidation. It does not scream. It does not threaten. It does not need to. Your calm's louder than their noise. You have a choice. You can react. You can argue. You can explain. Or you can remain unshaken. Controlled silence creates psychological pressure. It forces others to confront themselves. It forces them to expose uncertainty. It forces them to fill the void, and often, they fill it with weakness. This is intimidation without aggression, without confrontation, without raising your voice. You do not need their permission to create impact. You do not need validation to assert dominance. You do not need to move first. It is not about being threatening. It is about being unmovable. Consider how this works in practice. In meetings, the loudest voices often dominate attention. But the person who pauses, who waits, who observes, often sets the agenda silently. Others defer, others adjust, others hesitate. In negotiations, when the other side expects immediate responses, where pause creates tension, they imagine your decision, they project consequences, they fear overstepping, you do not move, they panic. In social dynamics, when someone attempts to push, provoke, or belittle, your refusal to react highlights their instability. The room sees who holds control. The room sees who is steady. Silence transforms mere composure into a psychological weapon. Controlled silence also forces projection. People assume your silence is about something. They assign meaning. They fear judgment. They speculate, and in doing so they reveal their priorities, weaknesses, and intentions. Silence becomes a mirror, reflecting the other's insecurities back at them, and you remain unaffected. Your calm is louder than their noise. Remember, silence asserts boundaries. It establishes limits. It enforces respect. Every pause you take communicates: I am grounded. I am deliberate. I am not accessible to manipulation. It is not about avoidance. It is about authority. Now, let us turn to negotiation mastery. Most people rush to respond, hoping to impress, or they pause, observe, and let silence force the outcome in their favor. The first to break silence almost always concedes, almost always reveals intentions, almost always gives something away. That is the key. In negotiations, every word you speak has a cost. Every reaction you give can weaken your position. Every explanation you offer can be used against you. Silence is free. Silence protects you. Silence empowers you. Wait, watch, win. Here's how it works in practice. You present your offer or stance. You stop. You say nothing more. You resist clarifying, elaborating, or defending. Notice how the other party reacts. Notice how tension grows. Notice their attempts to fill the void. They will justify. They will rationalize. They will negotiate against themselves. This is leverage. Silence in negotiation is not passive. It is deliberate. It is strategic. It signals confidence, composure, and control. You do not need their permission to pause. You do not need validation to withhold words. You do not need to explain your reasoning to maintain power. It is not about being aggressive. It is about being deliberate. Psychological truth is that humans are uncomfortable with empty space. They fear uncertainty. They crave closure. Silence exploits that instinct. Silence forces concessions without asking. Silence shifts the pressure to them. Wait, watch, win. Practical application. When negotiating salary, terms, or agreements, state your position clearly, then stop. Let them speak. Let them react. Do not justify. Do not explain. In business or personal contexts, resist the urge to clarify. Resist the urge to reassure. Resist the urge to speak first. The moment you break silence unnecessarily, you hand over power. The moment you speak to ease discomfort, you invite compromise. The moment you react impulsively, you weaken leverage. You have a choice. React to urgency or let silence dictate the pace. Skilled negotiators know silence communicates more than words ever can. It conveys confidence. It conveys patience. It conveys authority. Others interpret it as certainty. Others interpret it as strength. Others interpret it as dominance. Wait, watch, win. For advanced application, combine silence with deliberate body language. Maintain steady eye contact. Sit or stand relaxed but confident. Let posture reinforce your words, or the lack of them. Even when you finally speak, your words will land heavier. Measured words after silence carry weight. People remember them. They respond to them. This is how deals are won. Not by chatter, not by pleading, not by over-explaining. Silence is not weakness. Silence is command. Silence is leverage. You are no longer at the mercy of words, triggers, or opinions. You are no longer reactive. You are no longer drained. You are disciplined. You are composed. You are armored. The world will try to test this. People will provoke. People will challenge. You have a choice. Break, react, deplete, or remain silent. Protect, preserve, win. Guard your inner world. Chapter 17. The Power of Letting Go. Walking away quietly. There will be moments in life when the most powerful thing you can do is leave. Not loudly, not dramatically, not with speeches or explanations, but quietly. Walking away quietly carries a different kind of strength. It communicates that your dignity is intact, that your standards are non-negotiable, and that you are no longer willing to participate in situations that diminish you. But what makes this move especially influential is what happens after you walk away. The silence you leave behind speaks for you. Most people do not know how to leave without noise. They want closure. They want validation. They want acknowledgement. Or they want the other side to understand their reasoning. The ego insists on being heard. It wants the last word, the final argument, the moral explanation. Yet, the more noise you make on your way out, the more you reveal. You reveal your frustration, your disappointment, your need for recognition. And unfortunately, the more emotional you become, the less powerful the exit becomes. Quiet exits operate differently. When you walk away without fanfare, others are forced to fill in the blanks. They replay the situation. They reconsider their choices. They analyze their behavior. They question their assumptions. Silence triggers reflection more effectively than confrontation. Confrontation makes people defensive. Silence makes them thoughtful. This chapter is not just about personal relationships, though it applies there, too. It is also about business, friendships, collaborations, negotiations, and environments that no longer align with your standards. Knowing when to leave a room is as important as knowing how to enter one. Some rooms do not deserve your presence. Some dynamics do not deserve your effort. Some conversations do not deserve your participation. And some battles do not deserve to be fought. Leaving quietly also protects your future. When you storm out loudly, you close doors, damage bridges, and create narratives you cannot undo. People remember the exit more than the conflict. Dramatic exits feel satisfying in the moment, but they age poorly. Quiet exits age well. They preserve your reputation, your relationships, and your options. Influence is not just about what you gain. It is also about what you do not destroy in the process. The power of walking away quietly also lies in the confidence it communicates. When someone stays and fights for attention or validation, they signal that they need something from the situation. When someone leaves without demanding anything, they signal that their value was never dependent on the situation to begin with, and others feel that difference. They may not acknowledge it immediately, but they feel it. There is a psychological dimension here as well. When you leave quietly, you create what psychologists call a cognitive gap. It is an unresolved storyline. The human mind dislikes unresolved storylines. It craves closure, explanation, answers. When you leave without giving those answers, people generate their own. And more often than not, their explanation attributes more strength and dignity to you than any explanation you could have verbalized yourself. Walking away quietly also trains you in emotional detachment. Detachment does not mean you do not care. It means you have stopped trying to control outcomes that are not yours to control. It means you are no longer negotiating with situations that have already given you their answer. It means you understand that silence can end cycles that talking keeps alive. If talking fuels conflict, silence starves it. Of course, there is a difference between quitting and walking away. Quitting is rooted in fear or resignation. Walking away is rooted in clarity. Quitting says, I cannot. Walking away says, I will not. One shrinks, the other stands tall. When you walk away quietly, you are not giving up. You are choosing where to invest your time, your energy, and your self-respect. The practical question becomes, how do you know when it is time to leave quietly? It is usually clear long before you admit it. When effort stops creating progress, when communication stops creating understanding, when loyalty stops creating reciprocity, when the situation demands you shrink, betray yourself, or abandon your values, that is the moment silence becomes strategy. And here is the final element that makes this chapter matter. Quiet exits do not need a sequel. You do not need to return to prove anything. You do not need to explain your absence. You do not need to clarify your side of the story. The silence holds it. The silence carries it. The silence delivers it. And over time, silence has a way of amplifying truth, far louder than speeches ever could. So remember this. Not every battle deserves a warrior. Not every environment deserves a voice. Not every situation deserves an explanation. When the time comes to go, go with silence. Go with dignity. Go with clarity. And allow the silence you leave behind to do what noise never could. Make people reflect on what it meant to have you, and what it means now that you are gone. Chapter 18. Master your inner dialogue. The ultimate self-governance. There is a level of influence that has nothing to do with how you speak to others and everything to do with how you speak to yourself. Most people believe influence is external. How you persuade, how you communicate, how you lead. But before anyone ever influences a room, they must first influence their own mind. And the voice inside your head is far more powerful than the voices outside of it. If that voice is chaotic, fearful, or self-sabotaging, the world does not have to stop you. You stop yourself. Mastering your inner dialogue frees you from that trap. It makes you harder to control, harder to discourage, and harder to manipulate. This is the ultimate self-governance. Guard your inner world. The world is full of opinions, judgments, expectations, and noise. If your inner voice echoes all of that noise, you will constantly feel pulled in every direction. One person doubts you and suddenly you doubt yourself. One person criticizes you and suddenly you shrink. One person disapproves and suddenly you abandon your own choices. This is how most people live without realizing it, not guided by internal conviction, but pushed around by external pressure. And nothing destroys influence faster than a mind that belongs to everyone but you. Mastering your inner dialogue does not mean you ignore feedback or refuse to learn. It means you stop letting every external voice become your internal truth. You begin to filter. You begin to evaluate. You begin to choose what enters and what stays. Some opinions are useful. Others are projections. Others are insecurity disguised as advice. Others are just noise. When you have no filter, everything feels important. When you have a filter, only truth gets through. Inner dialogue also affects how you respond to difficulty. When something goes wrong, the untrained mind turns on itself. It says, I am not capable. I always mess up. Oh, this will never work. That kind of dialogue is not just negative. It is controlling. It shapes behavior. It stalls action. It kills momentum. A trained mind says something different. It pauses. It assesses. It adapts. It speaks in solutions rather than catastrophes. This does not happen automatically. It is practiced. It is built. It is earned. Another aspect of inner dialogue that people do not consider is how often it is inherited. Many of the doubts, fears, and critical thoughts people have about themselves did not originate from them. They came from parents, teachers, peers, bosses, culture, or past failures. Without awareness, those voices get absorbed as identity. You start repeating beliefs that were never yours in the first place. Mastery begins by questioning them. Who told me this? Where did this belief come from? Does it serve me or limit me? People who never ask these questions carry beliefs that were handed to them, not chosen by them. Inner dialogue also influences composure. You cannot stay calm on the outside if your mind is frantic on the inside. People who look reactive externally are usually battling chaos internally. They jump to defend, to explain, to fight, to escape. The world controls them because their inner world has no anchor. When you learn to regulate your inner voice, staying composed becomes easier. Not because situations are easier, but because your response is no longer dictated by the first wave of emotion. One of the strongest benefits of mastering inner dialogue is psychological independence, the ability to decide for yourself who you are and what you pursue without needing the world to validate it. Most people make decisions based on how others will react. They choose careers for approval. They choose partners for validation. They choose goals for applause. When the inner voice becomes strong enough, you choose based on alignment, not audience. That shift alone changes the trajectory of a life. A practical way to begin mastering inner dialogue is paying attention to how often you talk to yourself in commands versus how often you talk to yourself in criticism. Many people can motivate others easily, but cannot motivate themselves. They encourage others but punish themselves. They forgive others but resent themselves. They support others but doubt themselves. Influence cannot grow in soil like that. To influence externally, you must first influence internally. You must develop a voice that leads you, not one that limits you. Another practice is learning to replace final conclusions with temporary evaluations. I failed becomes I am learning. I cannot becomes I have not yet. This is impossible becomes this is unfamiliar. These may sound subtle, but they are the difference between shutting down and continuing. The inner voice that shuts down keeps you predictable. The inner voice that continues makes you unstoppable. When you master your inner dialogue, something interesting happens. The world loses its leverage over you. Approval becomes optional. Criticism becomes information. Conflict becomes data. Disagreement becomes normal. You stop reacting to every external signal because you no longer need those signals to define you. And when you stop reacting, you start leading. People listen to those who are self-governed. People follow those who are internally anchored. That is influence in its highest form. Not influence over others, but influence over yourself. Guard your inner world. Repeat it one last time. Guard your inner world. Chapter 19. Influence. Through undeniable results. Let your work speak. Most people live in constant explanation. They justify. They clarify. They defend. They beg to be understood. And in doing so, they weaken themselves. This is the path of noise. But true influence is built on an undeniable truth. Results speak. You have a choice. You can spend your energy convincing everyone why you did, or you can focus on executing, on producing, on delivering results that cannot be argued with. That is the key. Explanations are emotional leaks. Every time you justify yourself, you hand over power. Every time you clarify intentions, you invite debate. Every time you seek approval, you invite judgment. Strong people do not live in that trap. Strong people act first. Strong people produce outcomes. Strong people let the work speak for them. Results speak. Think about it. A great leader does not spend the day explaining strategy. They implement. They execute. They let achievements validate their decisions. A great entrepreneur does not justify every choice to their team, their peers, or their critics. They take decisive steps. They adjust silently. They let growth prove their methods. A great partner does not argue to be understood. They act. They contribute. They demonstrate value without endless conversation. Every word spent on explanation is energy stolen from action. Every sentence trying to clarify intentions is a distraction from results. Every appeal to understanding is a compromise of influence. Results speak. You do not need their permission to act. You do not need validation to make decisions. You do not need consensus to take the first step. It is not about being liked. It is about being effective. Here is the first principle. Act decisively. When faced with a decision, make it. Do not linger over whether others will understand. Do not agonize over how they will interpret it. Execute. Deliver. Move. The second principle. Resist over clarifying. Once action is taken, silence often strengthens your position. The less you explain, the more curiosity builds. The more mystery you maintain, the more influence you hold. The third principle. Let results validate your choices. When the outcomes appear, they speak louder than any justification ever could. Your success becomes evidence. Your execution becomes credibility. Your actions become authority. Results speak. Let us get practical. Next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, Pause. Ask yourself, does this advance my position? Does this preserve my energy? Will this create results? If the answer is no, stay silent. Silence here is not weakness. Silence here is discipline. Silence here is strength. You have a choice. React to criticism with justification, or focus on outcomes and let them speak. That is the key. Strong people understand the critical truth. People rarely understand it in advance. They only recognize after action. They only appreciate after results. They only validate after performance. When you stop trying to be understood, you free yourself. You focus energy where it matters. You protect your authority. You maintain momentum. It is not arrogance. It is strategy. It is discipline. It is control. Results speak. Repeat it again. Results speak. Explanations are optional. Action is required. Approval is optional. Execution is required. Understanding is optional. Impact is required. Your time, energy, and attention are precious. Spend them producing. Spend them achieving. Spend them mastering influence. Not just talking. Not just defending. Not just clarifying. Results speak. Here is the advanced application. When you act without explanation, two things happen. Others adjust to your tempo. Others respect your authority because it is demonstrated, not debated. The more you resist the urge to justify, the more your presence is felt. The more your silence speaks, the louder your authority becomes. You have practiced silence under provocation. You have mastered delayed responses. You have wielded silence in negotiation. You have built emotional armor. Now stop trying to be understood. Stop giving away energy in vain attempts at validation. Stop explaining when action communicates far more. Results speak. The world does not reward endless explanations. The world rewards those who act, achieve, and let outcomes validate them. You are no longer reactive. You will no longer reliant on others' comprehension. You are focused. You are disciplined. You are empowered. You have learned the final transformative level of strategic silence. Use words sparingly. Use action deliberately. Let results define your influence. Your power is undeniable. Your influence is undeniable. Your results are undeniable. Confidence is visible, but not always loud. Confidence is felt, but not always broadcast. Confidence does not demand attention. Fake confidence does. Fake confidence shouts. Fake confidence over-explains. Fake confidence panics at silence. Noise is insecurity. You have a choice. You can mirror the noise of the insecure. Try to out-talk, out-explain, or outperform in volume. Or you can remain calm, composed, and silent. That is the key. Silence exposes pretenders. Silence unmasks the unsteady. Silence reveals weakness where words attempt to hide it. Real confidence does not beg for validation. Real confidence does not seek permission. Real confidence does not need a witness to prove it exists. Noise is insecurity. Chapter 20. Still waters run deep. The enduring presence of quiet power. Presence is not declared. Presence is not shown with words, gestures, or noise. Presence is felt. This is the ultimate truth of strategic silence. Still waters run deep. You have a choice. You can fill every room with chatter, explanation, and commentary. Or you can choose silence, allowing your presence to speak volumes. That is the key. True presence is psychological. It is gravity. It is influence without effort. When you remain calm and silent, others notice. They observe your energy. They measure your composure. They sense authority. Still waters run deep. The loud, the frantic, and the overly eager command attention for a moment, but rarely respect. Noise draws eyes, but rarely inspires trust. Words without pause dilute influence. Silence commands respect. Silence creates authority. Silence magnifies the weight of your actions. Still waters run deep. Consider this. When entering a room, people immediately detect energy. Are you reactive or composed? Are you talkative or reserved? Are you driven by impulses or guided by deliberate intent? Your quiet communicates strength. Your calm signals mastery. Your restraint demonstrates control. Still waters run deep. Presence is amplified by strategic silence. Leaders, negotiators, and influential figures understand this instinctively. They speak with precision. They act with intention, and they allow silence to fill the gaps. Every pause is a tool. Every withheld comment is a statement. Every measured action becomes more potent. Still waters run deep. Practical steps to build unshakable presence. Pause before responding. Let others fill silence with their words. Limit unnecessary explanation. Speak only when your words add value. Observe carefully. Notice reactions. Read intentions. Measure impact. These steps create a magnetic presence. People lean in. People listen. People respect without coercion. Still waters run deep. Your presence is reinforced through consistency. Silence is not occasional. It is habitual. Composure becomes your default state. Your energy becomes steady, predictable, and commanding. It is not about arrogance. It is about discipline. It is not about showing off. It is about holding power quietly. Still waters run deep. Let us discuss the psychological effect. When you remain silent while others talk, you gain insight. When you maintain calm under provocation, others reveal weakness. When you speak deliberately, your words carry authority. Noise creates attention, but rarely influence. Silence creates influence and lasting impact. Silence builds presence that cannot be ignored. Still waters run deep. Apply this in daily life. In meetings, bulky after observation, not reaction. In negotiations, allow silence to compel concessions. In personal interactions, let calm energy establish leadership. Your presence becomes unshakable not through force, but through controlled stillness. Your aura becomes magnetic not through noise, but through disciplined silence. Your influence becomes undeniable because you act with intention, not urgency. Still waters run deep. Presence is reinforced when combined with action. Silent leaders do not merely observe, they act decisively. Silent leaders do not merely withhold, they communicate strategically. Silent leaders do not merely exist, they shape outcomes effortlessly. Every measured action, every deliberate pause, every strategic silence reinforces unshakable presence. You have a choice. Fill space with chatter and whisk delusion, or hold back, observe, and let silence amplify your presence. That is the key. Repeat once more. Still waters run deep. Your silence is not emptiness. It is depth. Your quiet is not indecision. It is authority. Your restraint is not weakness. It is unshakable presence. People notice your composure. People respect your consistency. People value your deliberate speech. You have mastered the art of strategic silence. You have built authority through restraint. You have created presence through calm. Every word carries weight. Every sentence has consequences. Every utterance can either create authority or erode it. Silence until it matters. You have learned one truth that changes everything. Power does not shout. Power waits. Every time you hold your tongue, you gain ground. Every time you do not react, you reclaim control. Every time you let silence stretch, others reveal who they are. This is not passivity. This is precision. From today forward, stop explaining. Stop reacting. Stop filling the silence out of fear. Let your calm speak. Let your restraint intimidate. Let your silence force the world to adjust to you. Your challenge is simple. For the next 7 days, say less but mean more. Because once you master strategic silence, you do not chase. A conclusion. The final word. Your silent mastery music swells, then softens to underscore narration. Narrator. You have reached the culmination of your journey. A profound understanding that influence is not built in noise. It is built in silence. Quiet choices, quiet standards, quiet discipline, and quiet self-mastery. Throughout Master the Power of Silence, you have explored how silence is not an absence, and it is certainly not weakness. Silence is control. Silence is focus. Silence is strategic restraint. It is the refusal to give away your power through impulsive speech, unnecessary explanations, or emotional reactions. The louder the world becomes, the more valuable this skill becomes. Think of the people who truly lead without begging for attention, without forcing agreement, without demanding applause. You will find that they practice silence in ways most people never notice. They listen before they speak. They gather information before making decisions. They respond instead of react. They protect their plans until those plans can stand on their own. They speak only when their words will move something forward, be it understanding, clarity, action, or alignment. They walk away from the wrong rooms instead of fighting for space in them. Most importantly, they protect their mind from being dictated by the opinions and expectations of others. You have learned that influence begins long before you enter a room. It begins with the relationship you have with yourself. If your inner dialogue is chaotic, fearful, defensive, or self-defeating, the world becomes your puppeteer. Every opinion controls you. Every rejection derails you. Every misunderstanding pulls you into arguments you did not need to fight. But when your inner voice is steady, when it is truly yours, when it listens more than it panics, the world no longer gets to steer your decisions. You become self-governed. And self-governance is one of the defining traits of influential people. Master yourself first, Silence, used well, also reveals truth. When you are not busy filling the air with explanations or justifications, other people start revealing their motives, their character, their intentions, and their insecurities. You learn more by watching than by arguing. You learn more by observing than by proving. And the more you learn, the better you navigate relationships, negotiations, partnerships, and environments. Influence is not about overpowering others. It is about understanding them deeply enough to move intelligently. And perhaps one of the most important lessons is this: silence protects your dignity. You do not need to defend yourself to everyone. You do not need to explain yourself to everyone. You do not need to convince everyone to see the world the way you do. You do not need the last word. Sometimes the strongest move is to walk away quietly and let the absence speak. People often understand more after you have left than they ever would have while you were still there, explaining. All of this leads to a simple, profound truth. Real influence is quiet, because it does not rely on performance. It does not need applause or validation to function. It does not need to be loud to be powerful. It does not need to be seen constantly to be felt consistently. Quiet influence endures because it grows from self-control, not from spectacle. As you conclude this audiobook, commit to applying these ideas, not as mere concepts, but as living practices. Consider where you speak too quickly, and ask yourself what would change if you slowed down. Consider where you over-explain, and ask yourself what would happen if you stopped. Consider where you argue to win, instead of to understand, and ask yourself who that really serves. Consider where your plans could benefit from privacy, where your energy could benefit from boundaries, and where your mind could benefit from stillness. In a world addicted to noise, silence is not the absence of power. It is the refinement of it. And the people who use silence well do not just become harder to read. They become harder to move, harder to manipulate, harder to discourage, and harder to control. That is where true influence begins. Carry that with you. Let silence work for you. Let restraint sharpen you. Let composure elevate you. And let your results speak the loudest of all. This has been Master the Power of Silence from Liberty Audiobook. Thank you for listening.